I have two very simple questions for you. Is your podiatry business making the money that you feel it should be making for the amount of time you've been in podiatry? And are you having the time off with your family that you feel you deserve after all the time and effort you've put into your business? If you cannot answer yes to both of those questions, please go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, have a read through the coaching section and consider reaching out to me. I really look forward to talking to you and helping you where I can. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends Podcast, a podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is my good friend, Big Jim Mac, also known as Dr. Jim McDannald. And Jim and I, we do the Podiatry Marketing Podcast together, which you may or may not be aware of. If you haven't checked out the Podiatry Marketing Podcast, go and check it out. It's available on all podcast platforms. So Big Jim is on here today because we're going to talk about the Practice Visibility Scorecard, which was Jim's brainchild, but we have been promoting it on the Podiatry Marketing Podcast, and we thought it was worth talking about on Podiatry Legends Podcast so people can understand it a little bit more and get access to it as well.
No, absolutely. We have people reach out to us all the time. We want our clinic and our services to be more visible online, but we're not sure where to start. Sometimes people get pitched on a lot of different things, either kind of cold calls or emails, and it's tough to tell what's a good baseline to figure out what's your standard kind of visibility based on what market you're in. So we put this together to really be a help to any podiatrist around the world to get a general sense of where are you visible online, who are your kind of competitors, other people that are ranking well online, and then where maybe some kind of demographic opportunities in those neighborhoods, communities, or places near you. So yeah, we'll jump a little bit into that today.
Yeah, because a lot of people too, they just assume they go into Google, they type in something that they've maybe typed in 15 times before, who's the best podiatrist in their town. And just because they show up, they think, oh, okay, well, I'm doing everything I need to do. I shouldn't need to do anything else. But that's not always the case, especially if you're using your computer that you're always on. Because I have done this where I have searched certain things on my computer, then I've gone and grabbed my wife's laptop and done a search on her computer, different results.
Absolutely. Like when you're searching on the internet, your browser, especially Chrome or any Chrome-based browser, has these things called cookies, and it basically caches some of the websites you've already looked at previously. So it knows some of your preferences already, and it's kind of like they sometimes make fun of ChatGPT or other LLMs with, is that it's going to show you what you want to see, right? So it's a sycophant in that way, and it wants to just show you certain things. So if you've checked out your own website 20 times or 30 times the last month and you search for things, they're going to have a very specific search result for you, as opposed, like you said, with your wife or your neighbor down the street, or even if you search in different areas on different devices, sometimes you'll get different results. So it's going to really vary. But yeah, there's definitely ways you can search to help mask it a little bit, but it's not always a clear picture. And sometimes you're getting a bit of a biased view if you're searching from your laptop or from your phone.
Okay, so the Practice Visibility Scorecard, what's the beginning part of what is it you're searching for?
Yeah, so like basically the Practice Visibility Scorecard initially is about 8 or 10 questions that you answer about where are you located, what's the name of your clinic. There's just some basic kind of information about your practice and your location. And then there's some software on the back end that we put that information in there. And the first thing it really picks up on is it creates a radius in and around your clinic. So maybe it's a 15-kilometer radius, or maybe it's 3 kilometers, depending on how big of an area you live in. But what we try to do is basically have 11 by 11 grid, and each spot on the grid signifies some fresh search from somebody that doesn't have those cookies or that kind of cached websites on their browser, and it'll show you basically a ranking of different search terms. So for the most part, when people do the practice visibility scan, depending on where you're located, for podiatrists in the US, we'll search for podiatrist and foot doctor for you. In the UK and Australia, maybe it's podiatry clinic and podiatrist, since not always is the term foot doctor used there as much, but trying to make sure that we can get that kind of local, kind of a blanket search over that local area with a certain radius to show you maybe at your own clinic, you're number one, but you go 2 or 3 dots over, which is maybe a kilometer away, and you're number 7 or 8. So we want to try to see where people are ranking well and where those opportunities are to do some things on your Google business profile or your website to try to improve that ranking.
It's probably even more important too if you're in a larger city where there are a lot of podiatrists from one suburb to the next. It can get quite congested. So you might, like you said, you might be appearing in one suburb quite easily. In the suburb that's only a couple of 100 meters away, you don't even appear in that particular area. It actually reminds me back in the old days when there was this book called The Yellow Pages, which you remember, Jim. And my podiatry clinic was in a suburb called Warree, which was next to a suburb called Earlville. Earlville was actually part of Cairns, but Warree was part of Mulgrave. So when people searched, if people were looking for a podiatrist in Cairns, went to the phone book and had a list of Cairns podiatrists there, I didn't come under it. I was in a Mulgrave section, and I was only 40 meters away from the border of the two suburbs.
Yeah, it's crazy when that happens, right? Like you talked about, sometimes determining where you are, what township or what county or where you're at can have a huge, if you're in a smaller county outside of that city limit or that city border, it can really impact your visibility. So sometimes maybe if there's students or residents listening to this, where you decide to actually be physically located can have a huge impact on your visibility. So this scan can kind of help you see that as well.
So what's the other things that you're actually looking at?
Yeah. So one, like I talked about, is how are you ranking in general? What's that? See that map, the map with all the dots on it and the numbers, and just get a general sense of how you're doing there. But then we provide a little bit of a competitor analysis, so you can see a little bit about what are some other clinics in the area that are maybe appearing ahead of you or have more of that visibility than you do. So it's just a little bit of an information as far as understanding what they're doing, the pages they have on their website, maybe how their Google business profile is built out. So you can really get a sense of who you're going up against with some of these searches. So it's good to see a little bit of the competition or the fellow providers in the area. Maybe it's someone's got a wound care clinic. Maybe it's got somebody that's really into sports medicine, and maybe you're more into pediatrics. You can see which names are popping up when it comes to visibility with these more generalized terms.
Is it because people are searching for specific terms? So if you want more runners, for example, in your clinic, but there's other clinics that their websites, the information they put out there is more focused on that particular area, and you're being more generalized, even though you may have been around longer, you might have more experience, you may actually be a better sports podiatrist than the other person. They're looking at the content that you've been creating and judging you on that. Or
Google is like
judging.
Google is judging you in a way, right? Like,
they're judging you too.
Judging, like, do you get a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 in that way, right? When it comes to, are you showing things on your Google business profile, whether it be images, the text, the services, the products you have there? Is that in line with what their kind of definition of a sports medicine clinic is like? Are you mostly talking about wound care and wound vacs and things like that? Are you showing imagery that's consistent with that specific niche you've had? And we talked about that a lot in the past and other shows. Do you want to be seen for that niche? I would say that the scan we provide is more generalized. We're not really going into the depth of, are you the number one sports medicine podiatrist in the area? But you can get a list, or you can kind of see, you can take that as well and go and search for those things. In incognito mode is another way to get some information. It's not perfect, but sometimes it's called private browsing. Google will sometimes still show you maybe what you want to see when you do the incognito or the private browsing, but it can be a little bit better way to see with those more specific terms. And if you do have a very niche practice, you want us to search for those in that initial practice visibility scan, we're happy to do that as well. But a lot of people just want to know, just in general, for those specific terms like podiatry clinic, podiatrist, or foot doctor. It just gives a general sense of where you're at and maybe some things you can do to improve it.
And when you were saying before about where there's dots on the map, it will have the scores of the other clinics in comparison to what yours is?
Well, generally we'll give you maybe the top 5 that are in your area, but you'll see maybe usually it goes from 1 to, I think, 12, or maybe it's 15 with that kind of ranking. And you don't know on those dots exactly who's number one in that specific spot without the back-end software like I have, but you can have a general trend, or they call the amount of who is doing well in that in the entire 11 by 11 grid. Sometimes we can provide that information as well.
Okay. What else are you looking at after all that?
Yeah, another thing we're looking at too is, where are those opportunities at? Now that we've seen where the map is, not every community necessarily has your right fit patients or the patients you want to go after. Maybe you're doing really well, like I said, in your local area, and there's a wealthy suburb 5 kilometers away, or there's an area that's really, it's near a park, so it's a little bit more on the outdoor side of thing, and there's more active people that live in that neighborhood. It's maybe a better demographic mix for you. So what we try to do as well is lay out maybe 5 or 6 different kind of either postal codes or zip codes where just a little bit of demographic information. In the US, we can get things like median household income. We can get a little bit more demographic information and show you that maybe you're not located in that specific suburb or nearby town, but there are ways, like I said, it's sometimes easier to rank well when you're physically there, but maybe you're looking to open up a second practice somewhere or a satellite, or get in with another clinic for, maybe it's a medicine clinic for 1 or 2 days a month, just to test it out and see if you can get the volume of the type of patients you want to see. So it can be helpful as far as making those kinds of decisions, but it can also be helpful for making marketing decisions, right? So that mostly organic search is going to happen when you're physically in a place, but there's things like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, local service ads, local search ads on Google, to try to maybe do a little bit of targeted ad spend in areas that maybe you looked at your EMR in the past and you pulled out that those are the right zip codes, or you've seen some of the demographic information we've given you and it makes sense to spend a little bit of money in those places that maybe they won't see you as well organically on Google search or within maps, but that's the right demographic and it gives you more information to make better decisions in the future.
I think that understanding the demographics in your own area and the surrounding areas is so important, because every clinic I'd ever set up, I'd always looked at that information before I decided where I was going to go. And that was how, when I mentioned before, I was in a suburb called Warree. At the time, demographic-wise and income-wise, that was the best location. But search-wise, it wasn't. I missed it by 40 meters. So I ended up moving, like I said, so I could end up being in that Cairns region, because that demographic suburb wasn't too far away. I knew they were probably going to come passing through that particular area. But if I was ever looking to expand, I'd definitely be wanting to see this information, especially if you want to set up a satellite clinic or work with another business.
Absolutely. And sometimes you can, just by having that demographic information, knowing that the geography and where things are at, it happens a lot in the US. Sometimes there's maybe a northwest or northeast pocket of a city that's maybe your key demographic. And then there's another community along an interstate. Like interstates are big in the US, right? There's like people are driving to and from work, commuting from a big city to a suburb. And maybe there's an open area there has it's a growing area. There's a lot of potential in that area. And sometimes that can be a way of kind of spotting an opportunity beforehand, instead of waiting until, it's already the way it's new housing, it's new commercial. There's a Costco going in, there's a Trader Joe's. There's certain kind of signals that you'll get from an upcoming area that, if you can know the demographics of those communities between it, you can sometimes surmise that that's a good place to be, because you're in the middle of a growing area, and it can lend to improved business and good opportunities for the future.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because if you look at some of the bigger companies, like say McDonald's, for example, I remember when I moved to the Cairns area, and all of a sudden there was one McDonald's at the time, but it was in the southern part of Cairns, in Warree, in that suburb where I initially had my clinic. It was a big suburb. And I'm thinking, why? Why are they all the way out here? You move ahead 20-something years, and this is the biggest growth area in Cairns. It's massive compared to what it was when I first moved here. So sometimes you just watch what these bigger companies are doing. They know where the growth is actually coming in particular suburbs. So you can pay attention to that, but you can also get these figures, and you can keep up with them.
Yeah, you can keep up with them. You can make planning decisions. Like I said, obviously the US being, at least in the suburbs, in the smaller town areas, it's really car driven, right? Maybe in cities, if you're here in Montreal, there's been a big kind of a light rail system that's really had a lot of concentrated condo development and all kinds of development in and around the train lines or the train stops. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all car centric, but in the US, primarily, if there's those opportunities along busy traveled roads between large commercial areas and residential, definitely be a huge opportunity for future growth.
You're saying in the United States, you've got these big pockets of populations, and there's a major highway that's just joining the two. So on the map, it may look like it's a fair distance, but once they hit the highway, it's only a 10-minute drive.
No, absolutely. That's the thing. When I moved to Chicago for the first time, or even now I live in Montreal, I used to be like 10 minutes away from a place that was 10 miles away. back where I was
Yeah.
from in Illinois. You just jump in the car, you go 10 miles in 10 minutes. Now I live in Montreal. I go 5 kilometers in 40 minutes. So like some of these communities, if you're on near an interstate, it can be, depending on the traffic and the density of the population, it can really vary. So finding these areas where there's new housing going in, there's large commercial opportunities there. Maybe there's a medical park or something where buildings are being built that could be a good fit with you. Pairing that with some of the demographics that we deliver to you in this practice visibility scan, but also just being knowledgeable about your local area can really help you tip off to some of these opportunities. And we hope that this free scan will maybe get those juices flowing a little bit, make you think a little bit about where those opportunities are, not only to expand, but like I said, these are great opportunities to see. That's where I want to market. That's where my ideal patients come from, or I can see that maybe be my ideal demographic to spend some Google ads or to spend some money on Instagram ads or something like that.
Yeah, and it's getting known in those areas too. As those areas are growing, you want to be known as you're the podiatrist for whatever it is that you're specifically marketing towards. Because if that area is growing, there's a big chance a competitor will move into that area at some stage, especially if it's a large growth corridor.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said just kind of be early, right? So if that's really a growing area that it's exploding in population or will explode, then the major hospital systems, the multi-specialty clinics, and other people are just going to probably start building satellite clinics there as well themselves. So if you can be some of those clinics kind of go-to referral source or their go-to podiatrist for certain things, and you're the person that went to go meet them when they open up the brand new building, or you were there at the multi-specialty clinic, like the vascular clinic opening or the large PT center in the area, and you're there and they know who you are, they know what you do, it's going to put you at an advantage in the future. So that is definitely a great opportunity in that way as well when it comes to your more boots on the ground marketing, not just your digital marketing.
Okay, what are you looking at after you look at the demographics, the growth areas? What's the next thing?
Yeah, so we'll kind of put all those things together and maybe give you kind of a little bit of a score. So maybe for the clinics that are really doing well and their website looks great and it's running well and it's got good content, maybe they're going to be in the 80s and 90s. Maybe the ones that need some work that are doing an okay job but still could use some work are in the 70s. So we'll give a bit of a score. We won't talk about those ones below 70 because that does happen sometimes, but I'm not going to give people too hard of a time. This is really to be a constructive kind of jumping off place. But we'll also give 3 things you're doing well and maybe 3 the highest kind of based on the scan, right? You and I are not spending hours combing over. This is something that we use mostly software on the back end to help us run it, but we have some pretty relevant, whether it's improving the category of Google Business Profile or it's just building out the description of your Google Business Profile or adding a few pages to the website. We'll try to deliver 3 concrete things you can do to try to increase the visibility for free. This is, like we mentioned, this is a free scan. This is not, there's no money that you need to put down on this. This is something that is available to all podiatrists throughout the world. We're happy to deliver it, and hopefully it does kind of get those wheels turning about how you can be more visible online and how you can build a practice in the way you want to, but be seen for the great care you provide.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I look at it like with what we do on the Podiatry Marketing Podcast and this podcast, that we give away a lot of value for free. And some people ask me sometimes, why do you just do this all the time? I look at it this way. If every podiatrist just improved, if every podiatry business just improved by 10%, the impact that would actually have on the whole profession would be amazing. And I think the visibility scorecard is just one of those things. If people reached out, answered the questions, took some of that advice, even if it only improves things 10%, then we've done our job.
No, absolutely. And to add on to that, once you get the scorecard, definitely there's a link there to set up a time to talk to either myself or to you, Tyson. And people that are in Australia maybe are considering some coaching when it comes to their marketing skills, they can reach out to you. But like I said, I'm always happy to go over this scan with people to help explain in more detail for those that know what's going on or don't know what's going on and want to have a basic understanding of those opportunities in ways that are more in plain English and aren't talking over people's heads. But it's just important to get started and to know what those opportunities are. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck doing what you've always been doing.
And if people want to get access to the scorecard, it is on the podiatry.marketing website. It's on podiatrygrowth.com website. And it'll be in the show notes for podiatrylegends.com.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just click on that link and you'll get sent to a very quick questionnaire with just gathering some basic information to help us run this scorecard. And yeah, people have been really happy with it. I think we're like close to 140 people have taken us up on the scorecard
Cool.
so far. And yeah, it's been going well. And hopefully people have gotten a lot of value. I know people have gotten a lot of value from what they told me when we talk on the phones or talk on the Zooms. But yeah, just jump in there and fill out the information. We're happy to give you that information to help you make better decisions to grow in your practice.
And they have everything to gain and nothing to lose by doing it. So is there anything else you want to say about it before we wrap up? This is only going to be a short episode, so if people are listening to this, it is almost done.
Yeah, if people have questions beyond what the scorecard provides, definitely reach out to Tyson and myself, and we're happy to help guide you through stuff.
Okay, Big Jim, that has been fantastic. I just thought this was, because you and I have spoken about it a few times, and I know we mentioned it on the Podiatry Marketing Podcast, but it's always just briefly. And I haven't asked you for a while how many podiatrists. So 140, that's pretty cool. So that's why I thought if we did this as a separate episode for Podiatry Legends, like I said, I think if more podiatrists do it, if everyone could increase by 10%, it's going to be great for the profession.
Totally agree, Tyson.
Okay, so I'll look forward to talking again soon. See you later.
Bye, Tyson.
Okay, bye.